Hi, this is Celeste, and this is breaking news. And actually, some of it is older news, but we're going to connect some dots that I feel that you need to connect. And to do that, I need to share my screen, which is not my forte, but we're going to try it anyway. So this is the World Health Organization situational reports, and they usually are a few days later than the rest of the world, I guess. It just seems to be that way. So let's just go down. This was like 3 days ago, and I don't ever look at the numbers or anything like that. Okay, so I think we do need to go into what are their strategic objectives, their public strategic objectives. These are not their private ones. To interrupt human-to-human transmission, including secondary infections among close contacts and healthcare workers, preventing transmission and amplification events, and preventing further international spread. Now, of course, it's also interrupting human-to-human interaction, just an FYI. And then to identify, isolate, and care for patients early, including providing optimized care for infected patients. And I just think that depends on who you are, and if you've used up your carbon credits and that type of thing. I think it's a lot more selective than they're making it out to be. And to identify and reduce transmission from animal sources, this is a biggie. This is saying basically this is anti-animal, anti-domestic animal, and really anti-wildlife. Remember, back in 1975, they said they were sending genetically modified organisms into all the forests, prion diseases, and other types of diseases to, in the effort for biological biodiversity. And this was could be found on the UN Convention of Biodiversity website back in 1996. They have since purged it somewhere in my hard copies. I do have a hard copy. But they do not want us to eat any meat. They hate animals. They hate companion animals. They hate your dog and cat. They hate my chickens. They hate goats. They hate horses. They hate cows. They're haters, basically. So this is what that is saying. Address crucial unknowns regarding the clinical severity and extent of transmission and infection, treatment options, and accelerate and development of diagnostic therapeutics and vaccinations. Of course, they don't want us to eat anything, but they want to diagnose and therapeuticize and vaccinate us into oblivion. That's the bottom line. Communicate critical risk and event information to all communities, and then to counter misinformation. And of all of the, quote, manpower and financial resources, most of those are going to fight the infodemic, which are the independent voices that bring you the news and the truth. They want only a few voices being heard. And right now, I am definitely seeing that the World Health Organization is rising to the occasion, and they are becoming the trusted source for people. And one by one, through sniper internet operations, they're taking out all the other players on the chessboard. So we need to, and that's on the internet snipering right now, but that will soon be happening real time to the news people and influencers that you know and trust, because by the time the Antichrist comes onto the playing field, there will be no other voices. So right now they're tilling the whole landscape of the earth, preparing for the Antichrist. And they're going to minimize the social and economic impact through multi-sectorial partnerships. What a crock. I'm sorry. The only entities that are going to get social or minimize economic and social impact are going to be all the bailouts by the transnational corporations and the banks and the government. I'm sorry, nobody else, you and I, quite frankly, they don't really give a rip. So, but this is their public objectives. So let's see if there's anything more on this one before we go to the next tab. Once again, here we see that the WHO has provided recommendations to reduce the risk of transmission from animals to humans. They're really trying to drive home the fact that animals are the vector pool. We are to fear animals. We are to hate animals. Only trust the UN. And this is about the WHO managing international travel. And of course, the WHO has the research and development blueprint to accelerate diagnostic vaccinations and therapeutics. And how do they accelerate this whole process? By just throwing out all the checks and balances, all the clinical trials. You know, we can just test it on a couple people and then it's good to go. We got to get the countries back to normal, but only for the people that are tested, who take the vaccinations, 1 in 48, and the DARPA hydrogel biosensor. And then they want to keep you entertained with their classes, which, forget that. And then they're going to give you their definitions, which is actually kind of nice because most of the time they do not give you your definitions. So then there's this website. It's www.who.emergencies/diseases/novel corona 2019. But what you want to look for is events as they happen. So we're going to look down here and see. We've got Dr. Tedros saying, my message to political parties, do not politicize this virus. If you care for your people, work across party lines and ideologies. This is all laying the foundation for a one world government, fascist government. So they're telling us to work together. And they want us to, or they say that the WHO has been working night and day in 5 different ways, helping countries' capacity to prepare and respond, providing the accurate information, and fight the infodemic. What did I say? Most of their financial and manpower is going to fight this infodemic, which is any other voice than themselves. And they're using numerous partners to accomplish this, and ensuring supplies of essential medical equipment for the frontline workers, training and mobilizing healthcare workers. I know that just as this was in process, it only takes 6 weeks to become a nurse. That's not a lot of training. And accelerating research and development, once again, by throwing out all the standards that bring safety to this type of thing. April 8th and 9th, they have an ad hoc consultation on managing the infodemic, and they want to make sure, and they're bringing together scientists, public health decision makers, medical journalists, technology, and social media platforms, as well as civil society, to make a framework where only trusted sources, and quite frankly, we're not considered trusted sources, can give any information about the COVID, and they are going to reduce misinformation, rumors, and myths. And they are the only ones that can do it, just like only the government can cure you or treat you for any medical condition that you have. And we trust our government and their ability to keep us safe and cure us of all our ails. Anyway, I thought this was really interesting. Here's a really informative thing. This is the WHO. An infodemic is too much information, some accurate, some not, and information that is also changing. Every time I wake up, it doesn't matter if I'm listening to a trusted source or an alternative source, it's changing every day. That is the nature of operations. They are a fluid it's a fluid operation. Now here's where it gets interesting. Okay, so I'm going to be real transparent here, and I have mentioned this before, but I just want you to be clear on it, and I'm going to give you two other stories or tie-ins connecting the dots. So back just before I came to Montana, I had been to Montana, and then I went back, and there was an exercise, and it was the first time that plainclothes people working for the federal government or government at large were in plain clothes. From before 9/11 until that point, you wore shirts with a logo, there were lanyards, there was a military type organization that was followed, and you didn't just wear street clothes to work. And so this was the first exercise, and there were probably about 100 people. The room was dark. I was sitting in the back, and this woman comes up behind me. I still to this day do not know who this woman was. I had been approached to do a certain job, and it was not a job that I could do. And but she whispered into my ear. She came up from behind me, whispered into my ear, "I hear you're going to be elevated to the status of a goddess." And at that point, the whole room went black, and it was that tangible blackness that was during the plague of darkness during the 10 plagues. I couldn't breathe. The air was that thick. So I left and I went outside, and I was able to breathe. And about then, like, my nervous system was on like red alert, which is like, whoa. So I realized that in the coming operations, there would be a class of gods and goddesses, and they were certain ones were appointed as gods or goddesses. Fast forward to 3 years ago, there were some wildfires in my area, and so firefighters from all over came, and God bless them. They really did a good job. They did work hard. There was a huge fire camp down in Seeley Lake, but the locals treated the firefighters who were doing their job like they were deities. It was very troubling they were almost bowing down. People bought t-shirts, they bought them dinner. There was this glorification and elevation to the status of a deity of these firefighters. Now, these firefighters were doing the job, their job. They were getting paid very well. And my brother was a firefighter, and they get fed really well too. And just like I was fed really well at FEMA. And so it was troubling. It was troubling to see this trend of deification. And now we are seeing nurses and midwives celebrated on World Health Day, but you can see many videos right now. I watched one the other day that was a short one where the hospital staff, nurses primarily, I don't know that there were doctors, I didn't watch it that closely, and they were out front and they were smiling and laughing. Now these are supposedly people that are dealing with dying patients, people on ventilators, and they're laughing and, you know, tousling each other's hair and waving and smiling. And then there were fire trucks in front. This was in New York, and they turned on their horns and sirens and everybody was waving. So once again, we see this underlying theme of the deification of certain classes of people over other classes of people. You are being asked to be an electronic prison, and they are being deified as, and they are just doing their job. And I'm not saying they should not be appreciated, but we need to thank the grocery store people, the truckers. You know, there's many people doing their job. What about the telephone company, the internet people? You know, there's a lot of people doing their jobs. We should not be in the business. It is extremely dangerous right now to be deifying certain classes of people. I mean, this takes us back to the district, like serfs and lords and all that type of thing. But you can see nurses and midwives are celebrated on April 7th on World Health Day. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention if you see it in your neck of the woods. And then this is a really sad picture as far as I'm concerned, because here is a child and you know, I didn't watch the video, but possibly a parent, and the only contact that they have is through this window. And if you've noticed, the infrastructure for these plexiglass windows is going up everywhere. I mean, you go to the post office, you go to the grocery store, any place that people are allowed in now, these plexiglass infrastructures are being erected. So there's basically walls going up between humans. And if you think that this is going to go away in a couple of weeks or even a couple of months, it's not. This is going to be the permanent state of affairs. And what is going to be the toll that it takes on our humanity, on our soul, when we can't touch another human, or we're so fearful of another human because they might give us a disease. This is an extremely evil agenda that is being foisted out upon us. It's nefarious to the core. And once again, we're thanking the health heroes. We're making the health workers almost superheroes, like comic book superheroes. And then, of course, they can tell, you know, be active. They've got the supplies. They tell us if we can or cannot have supplies. We're not supposed to be using our brain. We have to be told what to do. And then we really, truly are scored if we're compliant or not. So I would really encourage you to go to these events as they happen from the World Health Organization. Now, I got to back this up, and I'm going to play this for you. notice it says join the global citizen, the global citizen. So these are people that are beginning to have an allegiance to the global one world government, and they are now the global citizen. The backstory on that is 2 days before 9/11, the artificial or synthetic Ark of the Covenant was marched into the General Assembly of the United Nations. It is called the Ark of Hope. You can look that up. It had the Earth Charter in it, which talks about what your obligations and rights are as a global citizen. It had death masks, the Temenos masks, and some other things in it, all counterfeit of what was in the original biblical Ark of the Covenant. And so you want to join the Global Citizen and the World Health Organization to support our one world. So we're going to start hearing, and it's going to be quietly inserted, one world, one world, one world. I saw one thing that the World Health Organization highly praised China for all of their coronavirus activities, but they do not recognize Taiwan. So you've probably been, if you watch Netflix or any of those types of things, now we get advertisements, together alone, or it's alone together, or something like that. So now, let's back this up here. Now they're adding, I'll stop it at the right place. Hold on. Okay, so now they're going to add the globalcitizen.com and Together at Home. So, we're being told, we're going to get out of this. We're going to return to normal here pretty soon. But this is not going to happen. And the action that they're talking about is every man, woman, and child get tested for coronavirus. Every man, woman, and child is vaccinated against the supposed coronavirus. And the third thing is every man, woman, and child will have to have the DARPA hydrogel sensor to alert public health officials that you're sick before you even know that you're sick, so that you are not a threat to the community at large. Okay, so I also think that we need to listen to one of the sponsors, and it is Lady Gaga, and as far as I'm concerned, it's Gaga. But I think it's important to listen to what she says. And so out of the 4 minutes, we are going to listen to 2 minutes of this introduction of One World at Home.
Good evening to everyone who's listening and watching. I would like to thank the World Health Organization and the United Nations, as well as Global Citizen. Thank you very much, Dr. Tedros and Hugh Evans, for all of your leadership in this fight against COVID-19. And thank you very much to the World Health Organization for asking me to collaborate with you on this special. We are also very grateful to all of the healthcare professionals across the country and around the world who are on the front lines during COVID-19. This global pandemic is a catastrophe. I'm so thankful to them, and I'm also praying for those who are sick. It's been a pleasure to partner with Global Citizen, and we have been working all together behind the scenes to raise money for the World Health Organization. I would also like to send my prayers as well to people that are losing their jobs and are having a hard time feeding themselves and their children. We are raising money for the World Health Organization's COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund. And 7 days ago, we held a call with more than 68 corporate leaders from some of the world's biggest and most generous companies. And I asked them to join my corporate kindness list, as there have been many corporations and philanthropists that have been very, very generous during this time. Since then, we have also been calling on philanthropists around the world as well, and tech companies included. Again, I'd like to reiterate our deep gratitude to the medical community. My heart is very, very achy and warm for those who are ER doctors as well as nurses who are sleeping in cars to make sure that they don't infect their families or their patients. What you are doing is putting yourselves in harm's way to help the world, and we all salute you, and you are a triumph, truly.
Okay, so why do I feel that this is important enough to bring to your attention? Because there were some growing resistance movements with speakers from around the world in different, like alternative medicine, off-grid living, many different disciplines. I was asked to be on a panel, and they were squashed. They were eradicated by the powers that are growing right now in strength and power. So any voice of resistance and dissent is squashed, and Lady Gaga and her one world global citizens are emerging. So ladies and gentlemen, you are seeing the birth of the beast system coming to life, animating, and soon we will have the Antichrist. Next, we're going to move along, and you've probably seen this because this is a little bit of old news, but it is important for you to know and get your plans together.
Dr. Michael Ryan, he's a leader at the World Health Organization, announced that in response to the spread of this virus, authorities may have to enter people's homes and remove family members, presumably by force.
In most parts of the world, due to lockdown, most of the transmission that's actually happening in many countries now is happening in the household, at family level. In some senses, transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner.
Just so you know, we're coming to your house, seizing your children, and, quote, isolating them in a safe and dignified manner.
So there is much more to this agenda of why they are choosing now. It is not only children, it is husbands and wives. It is people who oppose the ideology of the state, of a global, one world global system. But there's some really disgusting agendas coming up, and that's the reason they want to seize those children now and to fracture the last remnants of the biblical family. And we're going to explore that right now. Why at this particular time? And so what we're looking at is a gender parity. So I have been having some trouble on Patreon. I noticed yesterday or the day before that it has been over a week, and all my videos say that I have had no views whatsoever. And yet I know that's not true because everybody's talking like crazy in amongst ourselves, but it says, as far as the videos, that there are no views. Then one of my patrons sent me an email this morning and said, did you realize that Patreon is starting to incorporate the rainbow in their logo? But it did not surprise me, because when you go into the World Economic Forum Strategic Intelligence, one of those 200 layers that they are injecting into the world right now is a gender parity. And gender parity is not just men and women. Is my understanding that there are about 650 different genders right now. Don't ask me. I mean, I've never seen a list of them, and I don't know how that is even possible, but it is more than that. You are also going to have a parity between synthetic life and like a regular human. You're going to have enhanced humans. You're going to have augmented humans. And in the next 10 years, the reason that there is going to be this mass depopulation of the world is because by 2030, these same people have said, and the military have said, that the first babies will be born that are engineered completely. They are not born, or they're not conceived via the old biblical way. They are engineered, they are designed, they are then enhanced and augmented, and they will be the future soldiers of 2050 if we made it that far. So there's those type of intelligences. There are going to be entities, which is why we saw the Philo code, Clade X, with all the different new life forms. We're in this period of time where the cosmic rays are going to be able to mutate everything from cellular life to biological life, such as ourselves. We are undergoing a mutagenesis right now, unless God is protecting each one of us. And we do ask for his favor in that particular case. But so then there's the different mutations. Some species will go extinct, some species will flourish. So this is more, then there's demonic entities, there's satanic entities, there are the fallen angels, there are giants. We are going to see a animation of all the different things of old, and this is all under the gender parity. So it's introducing us to these concepts right now. So for instance, gender dynamics of future jobs, there is artificial intelligence and robotics. And remember, as we look at this over on the right hand side, it takes us and gives us a summary. And if you really don't believe it's happening, then you can go below on the right-hand side, and it does give the recent publications, and it gives the videos and the data. This is coming to you real time. Now, this particular strategic intelligence, you do have to sign up. All it requires is a valid email. I probably would not use a Hotmail or a Gmail account. But maybe another type of free email, and I wouldn't make your name too weird, to make if you really want to gain access to this. There have been some feedback that certain individuals with certain domains are not being allowed in, but I didn't have any trouble. So let's just press this artificial intelligence and robotics and see where it takes us. Like I said, this is 200 levels deep. So once again, we have the summary over on the right, and we have the articles, videos, and data on the left, and how coronavirus is injecting these particular issues of global governance into our society. The uncanny valley, by convincing us that they are human. And then let's just look at all of these tethers right here. It's just incredible. Oh, just for fun, let's push drones. Let's see what they have to say about drones. And don't forget, the drones are a hive node of the artificial intelligence and the robotics. So here we go. We're looking for drones. All right. They're being used for environmental preservation. Very interesting. Urban area mobility. There's policy and social impacts. There's aerial data capturing. Well, surprise, surprise. Of course, they're integrated with AI and machine learning. They're involved in logistics and delivery, especially if someday we get Amazon out to our door by drone. And then there's the complicated issue of airspace management and infrastructure, of which I really have been seeing a lot of proposals in the Federal Register. And I'm just curious about the drone use in environmental preservation. What are they up to? Let's find out. Then it gives the summary right here. It talks about that it's going to monitor about mass extinction events of large mammals, of which we're one, acidification of bodies of water, if you believe in that, and deforestation. And they are already being used to monitor sea flows, migratory patterns of whales, busting illegal fishing operations, of course, monitoring endangered species. And let's see what else. And then it just tells about their, capabilities. So basically, there you go. And let's say you wanted to find out how drones fit in with forests. So you would go to your right-hand side, and under related topics at the bottom, you see forests. So we're going to just push that for just a moment. And then you see how the drones interact with the whole UN agenda, especially the sustainable millennial goals that they have. So this is all part of the United Nations agenda. They were running into way too much opposition, and so they just decided to introduce, let's just say introduce, the novel coronavirus, bring the world to a halt, and inject their agenda into the world without our consent and without any national input. We've had our discussion. As far as they're concerned, it's all over at this point. Okay, so basically what we've got coming up in June is this LGBT XYZ frenzy. It's going to be a month of perversity in June. So if you think that this novel coronavirus is going away before June, I mean, they may let it up for June so that these mass assemblies of perversion can occur, but then we're going to lock it down again. So it will be coming in waves. And I just wanted you aware that there is this real dark gender, extra godly life, demonic creatures, every imaginable thing is going to be popping up from here forward, from space, from under the ground. I mean, we've got some serious warfare that we're going to be doing. It's going to be in multi-dimensions. It's going to be breaking, from the heavens, from Gehenna, hell, and everything in between. Rocks are going to be thrown at us from outer space because our magnetosphere is collapsing. It is really a grave situation, but the good news is, and I really want to leave on a positive note, is that these things must come to pass, as Jesus said, so that he can return and establish his righteous government, and that we will be with him for all eternity. So we really need to focus not on our present suffering that we're enduring right now and that we will be enduring in the days to come, but that glorious hope and that glorious peace and joy and tranquility, and just, I mean, we are going to be singing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come, forever and ever and ever." And I can't think of anything better. And if I have to suffer for a little bit of a short period of time, which is probably going to seem like a long period of time, then so be it. I'm going to be with my Lord and Savior forever. So I just want to leave you with that positive hope, but we do have a wee bit of suffering that we have to endure in the meantime. God bless you.